All right, cool.
All right.
So, um, really, this week we implemented a whole mess of P5 to be able to add onto our homework planner app. The main capability of all of this is to be able to have the assignments each individually bounce around, and then you can add and delete them accordingly just by, well, the adding is just as soon as you type them in, they get thrown on here. So for math, let's say you have to have a packet done. Let's not stress about the date. And for another course, science, make that yellow just for this. And let's say you have a lab report to do for that. Adds that in as a second circle. So those bounce around, they bounce off each other, sometimes a smidge. And then they can be deleted just by clicking on the circles themselves. So if you click on one of these circles, you can see sometimes it deletes the Firebase piece as well, right? So it deletes that object that it's connected to per se within Firebase, and then it also deletes the separate assignment object that we created really in P5. So it tends to work really, really well if you only have one. If you only have one assignment left, or with some significant delay, but just clicking on this again, sometimes
Yeah, it looks like sometimes it takes 2 clicks, but
yeah, it separates them out, but the gist is there, hopefully. But that's really what we implemented this week, so we can show you what that looks like code-wise. Um, so to get this implemented, really, we didn't change much to HTML or to Homework Planner or to the other tags, really. Just included some extra scripts in HTML. We had to make one line change to more easily access a particular piece of information in Homework Planner. But then otherwise, you can see that we created something called assignment.js to pair with our assignment.tag piece. So you can see each assignment object has a name, some coordinates, a radius, some color components there, and then an x and y velocity. So this allows it to just kind of bounce around the screen, or each individual assignment object is just going to bounce around the screen as a circle. So we have some other functions that get helpful here. Most of these are pretty directly laid out in all of the P5 tutorials. A couple of other ones, though, that we added in were this natural error setter one. So if any of the assignment objects, if any of those circles gets entirely off the screen, then rather than have it just kind of multiply the velocities times -1 many, many, many times and have it just not move once it's already off the screen and not come back, we said, okay, well, if it gets particularly off the screen, so if it gets all the way down, way off this way, or plus 100 on the width, so way off the other way, either way, it will just move it back to the middle. So in the event of something going really awkwardly off the screen, that will make it seem a little bit organically to come back rather than having to change too much else. The wall, like I said, that was kind of laid out as well, but you separated it out as another piece here. So really the only other piece that we needed here, we saved the name to the assignment object there from the assignment itself, right, from that Firestore piece, which we lay out in sketch.js. But as far as what's being drawn in that, in each circle there, really it's just this.name, right, so the name of whatever that assignment object is, and then the position that's outlined in up at the top here. So sketch.js seems kind of complicated. This piece of code in here we just took from elsewhere on the internet, really. But all that does is it just uses the same information we had from the homework planner tag directly. So it takes this piece of information here, right? That color, that hex color, right? And then down here we took the all we really had to do to change this code from before is we just took the this reference right here to the course color, and we just applied that to the assignment. So all the assignments just intrinsically get whatever color their course is as well. So that made it actually pretty easy to assign that color within our Sketch.js piece. So within Sketch.js, I feel like most people have kind of been doing P5 for the week, or for the course. So you can see our setup is pretty straightforward, right? We have the setup. Create canvas is really the only thing that goes in there. So that's just starting our program once. We have that canvas. Anything involving deleting any of the assignment objects, we had that governed in mouse clicked. So you have to click on an assignment to delete it. And then otherwise, draw, this is just going to run again and again and again to kind of create animation effects. So as far as how we got that to run, how we got Firebase and Riot and P5 all to work together, to get a for loop of sorts to work for Firestore, because it doesn't allow you to iterate through anything that you have in Firebase for the most part, or in Firestore for the most part. You have to use the snapshot piece again. But Jonathan, we used that last week, yeah?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, I think we ended up using it. I can't remember where exactly. But yeah, I think it was just what we used in order to have the just assignment up, the assignment tags display and the subgoal tags display as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
So within Draw, really all we're doing is saying, okay, for each assignment that exists within Firebase, right, we want to create a new assignment object right here that is actually going to draw a circle. So previously we talked extensively between Riot and Firebase of saying, oh, there's supposed to be one true data, there's only supposed to be one true piece there. But to get our circles to kind of bounce around appropriately, to get everything to work fairly fluidly, it seemed as though you had to kind of separate the idea out of the animation versus the database itself. You know, because otherwise it just doesn't seem to run fluidly at all. You just I don't know. We had significant difficulty getting it to go past that, but otherwise.
Yeah, I think when you get multiple different what's the word I'm looking for? Different add-ons to regular HTML and JavaScript. Once you keep adding them all together, they start to interact in kind of weird ways if you're not careful. I think that's what we ran into here.
Yeah. So we added in a couple of other Q pieces really just to edit that directly. Right. So we said for each of the assignments, if such an assignment already exists, then you don't really need to add it. Only push assignments that aren't already added. So again, we're just creating an assignment object, right? An assignment P5 object. We're just creating one of those corresponding to all of those that we read off within our Firestore database. So down at the bottom, really, this is pretty straightforward from the P5 tutorials, right? Showing something, moving something, reveal just draws that text on it, and down here, if any of those assignment P5 objects run into one another, then multiply both of their x and y velocities times -1. So the really hard part, or really where we kind of left off, what's the where we're headed from here, I guess. In addition to being able to implement more features with subgoals, but really with mouse clicked, having objects or having those Firebase objects deletion correspond perfectly to the P5 object deletion. Having those totally perfectly match up, having perfect one-to-one correspondence there is kind of difficult. But you can see that we have a really basic for loop to say, okay, read through all of the P5 assignment objects, and if the mouse is on them, so if we are in fact clicking on one of those P5 circles, right, then read through the assignments. If one of the assignments corresponds correctly, right, then delete it. And then down here, you can see we have something to say, okay, yeah, take that assignment object that corresponds as well. So take that P5 assignment object, right, and delete that as well. So this up here kind of governs deleting it from Firebase. This down here governs deleting it from P5. The problem is that, like I said, they don't seem to match up perfectly. I think a lot of that, though, is timing based. So we just put in a for loop here which more or less says count to 1,000 and keep going from there. So that made things work a little bit smoother. And sometimes you could see that if we have, if we left it for a while, Jonathan, I feel like it was, it would work then, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Or no, I'm saying like when we did it, like we just left like 3 for a while, and I was so surprised.
Yeah. It felt. Yeah. We definitely had it definitely worked after a few moments. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of the stuff like this, if it doesn't exist piece, right, that could all be written out theoretically if it was perfectly responsive. Or I guess that's what we're kind of having trouble determining here is seeing whether or not that actually does work perfectly. But really, all you would kind of need is this assignment, assignments.splice I comma 1. So all that's going to do is just take away that individual P5 objects, just delete that one object off of our array of P5 objects. This really we could just put up there, and it would be much smoother code. Really, this is just where we are in the troubleshooting process to try to get that all timed up right.
Yeah.
So, anything else we need to add?
I mean, we could talk a little about like what our thought process was for making this thing, because I don't think like it might not be entirely like obvious at first how it's like valuable for learning, but I think like I think there's some value in like some kind of like homework planner app or what's the word I'm looking for? App or whatever.
Applet, yeah.
Website, whatever. That is a little bit more interesting, like visually interesting than like just a list of tasks. Because I think it makes it a little bit more fun, a little bit more enjoyable.
Oh yeah. Like if you just populate
like,
everything on there, it seems like you have all this stuff going on. And there were other things we were talking about adding to, like saying that you could put in like an importance, or like how long you're expecting it to take, and have it be a bigger circle on the page.
Yeah.
Which would be cool just to have that visualization there. But otherwise, I think it really is satisfying. Like when you have a big project that you've been working on, or like some big paper, and then you close every tab afterward. It's really satisfying.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So that's really what we're going for here. But then otherwise too, as far as like how we were exploring the process, it really helps to kind of further idea of trying to have one, or trying to stick to adhere to having one true data exist. And it's hard to get that to work graphics-wise in a graphics and database to get those working, or animation specifically, versus a database to have those all run at once is kind of difficult. But or I guess it's interesting enough to try to get that stuff all to run together from a code perspective. But I think I think what we saw is really that you kind of have to go with separating those two pieces out. Like you can have one inform the other, so you have the database inform what you have for your animation, but otherwise, extreme difficulty there. When we originally had it, of just having all the balls bounce off of one another, it worked really well. But then to try to get that stuff informed from, or try to have like X and Y, try to get those informed from the database, it was way too glitchy. So. Word.
All right. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Let me find OBS.